Injuries continue to cause problems in the Buccaneers secondary with key players out again. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this live Friday preview episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as editor-in-chief of the 813.tv. Here with you every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. No ads or hashtags or anything like that. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Keys to victory and predictions coming up in a little bit, but let's start first and foremost by saying I hope all of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your loved ones, your family, your friends. Hope it was a great time getting together with everyone, enjoying some delicious food, watching some football, or if you were like me, watching a little college basketball, because who really wanted to watch the Cowboys and the Giants? But as far as the Bucs are concerned, let's start with the injury news as far as who is in and who is out. Now, Jordan Whitehead and Tyke Smith are both out this week. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is doubtful, and Tristan Wirfs will once again be a game-time decision. But as I discussed with Evan Klosky on Wednesday, it doesn't seem like this is a game where the Bucs really have to have Wirfs in the lineup, though a tune-up game for him against the Panthers before facing Max Crosby wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Tristan feels like he is ready to roll. The concern, once again, comes in the secondary. We knew that Whitehead would be out, so the best thing would have been to start Christian Izien at safety and allow Edwards to play the role that he was brought in to play and did very well last week. It also seems a little premature after only being with the team for a week to throw him out there as a starter. However, with Tyke Smith also being out, that kind of throws a wrench in things because Izien has been the slot corner in Smith's absence. So where does that leave the Bucs? Well, Troy Hill, who was brought in, Todd Bowles said to the media when he was signed that he could play inside or outside, was upgraded to a limited participant in Friday's practice, and he is listed as questionable for Sunday's game. If he can go, I would imagine that he is the one that slides in at nickel corner to allow Izien to get the start at safety. If it's not Hill, it could be Tavierre Thomas or Josh Hayes. Now, Hayes really isn't a slot corner, so that could create problems in and of itself. But Thomas, on the other hand, has just 2 defensive snaps all season. He has played on 83% of special team snaps, but has just 2 on defense. Not 2% of defensive snaps, literally 2 snaps. Obviously, there is a reason for that. And perhaps the Bucs don't see enough in him to give him any meaningful snaps on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe they don't trust him. Maybe they don't like what they've seen so far. They feel he's better suited to just be a special teams player at this point. So my guess would be that if Hill can't go, or if Hill can go, he's the nickel corner on Sunday. If he can't, we could also look at a situation where the Bucs elevate Rachaad Wisdom or Marcus Banks from the practice squad to come in at safety so that Izien can play nickel, or they just end up saying, you know what, we have Mike Edwards, we're going to start him, but that kind of limits other things that you can do for this game. Maybe against the Panthers, you can get away with it, but make no mistake about it. Bryce Young and the Panthers offense has been playing much better over the last few weeks. The Bucs cannot afford to blow this game. It's a game that they should win. And if they don't win, it's really going to hurt their playoff chances in likely an irreversible way. I would not expect Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to play in this one. He is doubtful. I don't think all of a sudden he is going to see the field with that ankle injury. Anthony Nelson is listed as questionable for personal reasons, so I do expect him to be in the lineup and ready to go. Then you're going to have more opportunities and snaps for rookie Chris Braswell. The pass rush is going to be anchored by Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. So whoever is in at edge just needs to capitalize on the opportunities that those two guys provide as the lead pass rushers on this team. As for the Panthers, they are going to be without wide receiver Jalen Coker and tight end Jatavion Sanders. Now, Sanders was a guy, for those that were with me through the draft process, I talked about a lot as a target that I would have if I'm the Buccaneers, and he has been a big target for Young over the last 3 games. 9 receptions, 144 yards, and a touchdown over the last 3 games for the Carolina Panthers. Him being out definitely hurts the Panthers offense a little. They're going to be relying on Tommy Tremble as their starting tight end in this one. Tremble had a solid game in the final week of the season last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But then the Panthers have Jadeveon Clowney listed as questionable with a knee injury, while another outside linebacker, Amare Barno, is also questionable, but he hasn't officially been activated from injured reserve quite yet. If he's ready to go, they will activate him on Saturday, and he will be ready to roll on Sunday. Then also questionable for the Panthers are cornerback Caleb Farley and safety Nick Scott. So the Buccaneers are not the only team in this matchup with some injury issues in the secondary in this one. But overall, again, this is a game that the Buccaneers should win. They can get away without having Jordan Whitehead and Tyke Smith and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka in this game. They just have to play smart. I'm going to talk more about that coming up in a little bit as I take a look at the biggest key from each side of the ball. But let's jump into the live chat real quick. We got Christopher in the chat saying, got to keep it rolling. Absolutely, 100%. JJ in the chat, I made a live from the beginning with the thumbs up emoji. I'll give you a double thumbs up. That's awesome. Glad to have you here on a Friday. We got Destined for Greatness. I was chatting with him on Twitter. I'm hoping last week was the performance we needed to get this defense going. This is a stretch now where the Buccaneers defense can really get on a roll, and they can overcome some of these injuries far easier than they could against teams like the Lions, the Chiefs, the Ravens, even the Falcons. You know, this is an opportunity now for the defense to really start to get into a groove. The injury to Whitehead certainly is a setback, but something that they'll be able to overcome. I really hope that Tyke Smith is back sooner than later. He was really becoming a big part of this defense and really starting to make some serious splash plays to help out this team. And this knee injury has kept him sidelined now for a couple weeks. Want to see him back sooner than later, but we also want to see him back when that knee is ready for him to be back, because we don't want a situation where he comes back for a week, re-aggravates that knee injury, and then all of a sudden you're going to miss him in crunch time when it's the most important, missing the final stretch of the season, missing potentially postseason games. You want Tyke Smith to be fully ready to return. I think given the schedule outside of the Chargers, maybe arguably outside of the Cowboys, these are teams that the Bucs can be a little shorthanded on defense, let these guys get healthy, and still be able to control these football games. We got Ian in the chat that says Chiefs Kingdom. Okay. Not really sure why, but sure. Lakita in the chat says, seriously, nice Illinois hoodie. Thank you very much. This is from Champaign, Illinois. Picked this up when my dad and I went to the Illinois-Minnesota game. Was very excited. I was actually most excited about finding hats that actually fit. You can't find Illinois hats online that fit decently. So I was mostly excited about that, but I appreciate the kind words. I do love this hoodie. Very, very warm. Very, very warm. So it's nice when it's now snowing where I am. All right, taking a look at the biggest key for each side of the ball. That is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You all know how much I love going to live events, concerts, sporting events. I'm constantly talking on this show about a concert or a game I'm getting ready to go see. And the first place I'm checking out when I look for tickets is Game Time. I've already used Game Time to pick up a nice little holiday surprise or two for some family members to open up on Christmas. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With all-in pricing, I know exactly what I'm going to spend up front, so there's no surprises when I get to checkout. If you're interested in going to see the next Buccaneers home game, you can get tickets to see them take on the Las Vegas Raiders starting for under $80. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it's 2 shows every day. You got the madman Tyler Rowland kicking off your morning with the double shot of NFL Espresso. Then you can swing by the barbershop with my guy, Tony Wiggins, for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. So make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We have Bry in the chat says, Ian is a closet Bucs fan. He's in every Bucs live, including press conferences, yapping about the Chiefs. Well, you know, when you're the only team to defeat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, obviously that's going to garner some respect. And Chiefs fans are going to, you know, respect the Bucs and probably cheer for their success outside of playing the Chiefs, because that just makes that loss look a little bit more impressive. But that's neither here nor there. I have the Chiefs on in the background. Travis Kelce's out there dropping passes. It's whatever. I'm here to talk about the keys to winning against the Carolina Panthers if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm starting with the offensive key to this game. Give Bucky the ball. I'm going to rinse and repeat it from last week, but it's even more true now than it was a week ago. The Panthers are dead last in the NFL in rushing yards allowed. They are giving up 4.7 yards per carry. They've also allowed 17 rushing touchdowns this season, so the production is there for the taking with Bucky Irving. I've talked about his rushing success rate. If you missed it, go back to Tuesday's episode. I'll rehash super fast, but I go far more in depth on Tuesday. Bucky Irving is 23rd in the NFL and above the NFL median in rushing success rate. The more he gets the ball in his hand, the more effective he becomes. That also means that Rachaad is in a positive matchup and can do some serious damage. I'm not going to leave Rachaad out of this one. He has more rushing yards against the Panthers than any other team. He averaged over 3.5 yards per carry and over 5 yards per reception against Carolina to go along with 1 touchdown. Overall, it's over 4 yards per touch for Rachaad against the Panthers. And their defense is an absolute sieve against running backs. I said it earlier this week. I would love for Rachaad to have the kind of game against the Panthers that we just saw Bucky have against the Giants. But ultimately, I think the majority of the rushing success for the Bucs will come from Irving. Bucky on the season is averaging 5.4 yards per carry and 7.9 yards per reception. The Bucs as a team average 4.9 yards per carry. To break it down even further, Bucky has 580 yards on 108 carries. The rest of the team, minus Baker Mayfield. I removed Baker's rushing stats for this comp. But without Baker, the rest of the team has 611 yards on 136 carries. So Bucky Irving is averaging a full yard more per carry than every player besides Baker this season. Against the NFL's worst rushing defense, that's your path to success. Defensively, it's about not making preventable mistakes. I talked about it a little on the crossover with Julian Council, but against this offense, you cannot find yourself in a situation where you're bailing them out with penalties and giving them free first downs. The Panthers this season have converted on just 33.8% of third downs, going 45 of 133. That's 27th in the National Football League. Over their last 3 games, they're converting on 39.4% of third downs, which is tied for 16th in the league over that same span. At home, the Panthers convert 36.7% of third downs, so that's just barely more than their season average. You want to see the pass rush get after Young and create these long down and distance situations. But with the secondary being beat up and then having to piece together players all over the place, you cannot allow yourself to give up a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 8 or a 3rd and 12 because of a stupid defensive holding penalty or a pass interference call. You can't give them another crack at a 3rd down because you jumped off sides trying to get after Bryce Young in a sure passing situation. This defense, for as beaten up and shorthanded as it is, cannot afford to beat themselves and give the Panthers extra chances. I don't care what a team's record is. I don't care who their players are. I don't care who their play caller is. If you keep giving an NFL team do-overs because of stupid, self-inflicted penalties, it's going to end up biting you in the butt. Remember, the Panthers were worse last year than they are this year, and yet the Bucs barely got a 9-0 win in their last meeting at Bank of America Stadium in the final week of the season, and that game meant something for the Bucs. That was still a must-win game for Tampa Bay, and they come out with only 9 points. Division games, you can throw the record out the window. These teams know each other, and especially Dave Canales and Todd Bowles knowing each other means that this game can be a lot closer than it should be when you look at the matchup on paper. This is a must-win. That was a must-win. You cannot allow stupid mistakes to give the Panthers extra chances. This team has to be focused and treating the Panthers the way that they would treat the Lions or the Chiefs or the Ravens or any other formidable offense. Because if they don't, the Panthers could wind up with a massive upset that doesn't just keep them in the playoff hunt, but it severely hurts the Buccaneers' chances to make the playoffs. I talked about it a ton on the bye week. The Bucs have 6 of their last 7 games of the season against teams that are below 500. They should win all 6 of those. And if they do, they'll finish the year with 10 wins. And that could very well be enough to win them the division. It will, at the very least, put them in a pretty solid spot for a wild card berth. But if you go out and you lose to the Carolina Panthers, that whole thing can get derailed in a hurry. So do not shoot yourself in the foot and establish dominance early on. That is the key. If you are Todd Bowles, dialing up this defense, treat them the same way you treated the Giants last week. Treat them the same way that you treat Jalen Hurts and the Eagles when you're flying all over the place and knocking Jalen Hurts around. You have to treat them like they are a top offense, because if you walk in thinking you already have this game won, you're going to lose, and it's going to cost you an opportunity to make the playoffs. Going to jump into the chat again real quick. We got Scotty, my dude Scotty, Boomer Sooner, says, I watched the All-22 and was shocked how well School and our Rook played on the O-line last week. School was actually really, really impressive. Maybe, some of these guys, they're a better fit on one side of the line compared to the other. We know how badly Justin School struggled when he came in for Luke Gedeke early in the year. He seems more like a natural left tackle. He played a fantastic game. And, all due respect to the Carolina Panthers, I would fear Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau a little bit more than I am fearing Jadeveon Clowney or the rest of the Panthers edge rushers, which is why I wouldn't be overly concerned if Tristan Wirfs doesn't play in this one again. To Evan Klosky's point, You would like to see him maybe get a little bit of a tune-up to not miss, 3.5 weeks if you include the bye before having to set foot on the field and take on Max Crosby. But if Wirfs isn't in the lineup, I'm not overly concerned with the ability to protect Baker Mayfield. We got Bry in the chat saying Bucky will have 100+ rushing yards. You know what? That's perfect, Bry. Everyone go ahead and start dropping your bold and score predictions in the chat, because coming up next, it's prediction time here on the Locked On Bucs podcast. Ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Buccaneers are 5.5-point road favorites against the Carolina Panthers this week with an over-under of 46.5. They've also closed the gap in the division even more, with the Falcons still being the favorite at -260, but the Bucs are sitting at +230. Their Super Bowl odds have also skyrocketed from +12,000 just a week ago to +5,500, tied with the Commanders, Broncos, and Seahawks. Visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Wrapping things up here on a live preview episode of Locked On Bucs, and it is prediction time. I'm going to start things off with my predictive player of the game. And again, you guys start dropping your bolds and your score predictions in the chat. If you've already put it, just do it again. It's hard for me to scroll up and read through everything in real time. But my predictive player of the game in this one, and who didn't see this coming, it's Bucky Irving. I've been pumping his tires all week long, and there's a reason for that. Bucky is coming on strong at the right time, and now he has his best matchup so far this season. Look for him to get a ton of carries. His career high for carries in a game is 14 against the New Orleans Saints. I expect him to surpass that, and I'm calling my shot here. I'm with you, Bri. Bucky Irving is going to get his first career 100-yard rushing game against the Carolina Panthers. This game should look very similar to last week in terms of the game script. The Bucs jump out to an early lead and look to grind it out in the second half. If that's the case, that's where it becomes the Bucky Irving show down the stretch, and he will get a ton of usage in the second half. And you know how Bucky is now. The more that he gets used in that second half and the more that defense starts to wear down, that's when the explosives come in. That's when he got his 56-yard run against the Giants. Very, very similar situation against the Carolina Panthers in this one. My bold prediction is that the defense absolutely dominates. The Panthers offense has been good over the last 3 games. All credit to Bryce Young really being able to bounce back after his benching, after Andy Dalton took over. Now, Bryce Young looks impressive. You have Chuba Hubbard, who has been fantastic in the run game. You still have Jonathan Brooks, who's getting sprinkled in here and there. They're starting to ramp him up a little bit. He provides a serious threat. But this Panthers offense is averaging 23.3 points per game over the last 3 weeks. They have scored 20 or more points just 6 times this season, but they've managed to do it in 3 straight games now. Todd Bowles is going to have this defense ready to roll and create a lot of problems for Bryce Young and Dave Canales. They are going to take this Panthers offense very seriously, and the results will reflect that. Give me the Buccaneers defense to get 2 takeaways and 5 sacks in this game. This defense will be buzzing. As for my score prediction, look, I think that the Panthers are trending in the right direction. If you are a Panthers fan, you are starting to believe in the potential of the future of this team. And the way they've played the last couple of weeks, the way that they are starting to shape out, we'll see how they finish the season, of course, but you're starting to look at next year with a high draft pick, being able to add more weapons on offense, being able to start to rebuild this defense into something more formidable. You are excited about the 2025, 2026, 2027 seasons. All that said, this Buccaneers team is out for blood. They understand what is at stake. They understand what happened to them in the first 10 weeks of the season, what they are up against, and regardless of the injuries, regardless of the key players that they have lost, they know that they can hang with teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Lions and the Eagles, and they want an opportunity to prove that in the postseason. They are hungry for this win. I do not expect this one to be particularly close. I'm not expecting as big of a margin of victory as last week. I think I predicted the Bucs to win by 21 against the Giants. This one, I'm taking the Buccaneers to win 30-13 on the road against the Carolina Panthers. Going to jump into the chat and see what your guys' bold and score predictions are for this one. We have Lakita. Mike gets at least 100. I love that. I'm here for it. Destined says over 100 for Bucky and Mike. I'm here for that one as well. Glenn says maybe not 100 rushing yards, but over 100 all-purpose yards. He's referring to Bucky Irving on that one. We got Destin says his bold prediction is Mike goes for 175 and 2. I am here for it. Bantry says similar to the Saints game where the first half is scary, but then the Bucs settle down and shut out the Panthers in the second half, and the offense scores on every drive. He's taking the Bucs 34-24. We got Bry saying 31-12 or 38-12. If the defense gets a score, Bucky gets 100 plus rushing, Mike gets 80 plus receiving. We got Sal saying 28-17 Bucs. And then we got Glenn, 3 sacks from the interior line. I love to see that. Scotty J, sorry, I almost missed you. Sean Tucker will have 50 yards rushing on 7 carries. Mike goes for 125 and 2 tutties. He's picking the Bucs to win 30-13. And remember, Mike only had 68 receiving yards last week. He only needs to average 95 for the rest of the season following the bye week. So that does include last week. So if he gets a $125 in this one, he's back on track. Look for a big day out of Mike Evans. I expect Baker to hit him early and often. I know Evan talked about it on Wednesday's episode, how some of Mike's routes were a little bit shorter. They were a little bit safer. They really didn't let loose with Mike Evans in that one. I would expect Mike to have a few more deep routes, a few more go routes in this matchup where he can really take advantage of a suspect Carolina Panthers secondary. So I'm with you all predicting a Mike Evans 100+ yard game. But that is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Bucs. Please check out everything that we're doing over at the 813.tv. Appreciate all of your support as we try to build something special over there. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @Yarcho_Bucs. If you're so inclined to check out the 10 Tampa Bay YouTube page and check out the Blitz on it this week, talking about the running backs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider. And of course, make sure that you're following on YouTube with those notifications turned on, and you'll know when I'm going live with the post-game reaction episode on Sunday. And of course, also make sure that you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.